Good morning, world, YouTube. My name is Daniel, and this is Essentials of Meditation, Part 6. I always like to try to begin these sessions with a little explanation, or you could say a proposition, in a sense, some ideas, because, the mind and consciousness and what it is to be a human being in the cosmos, we clearly don't know everything about that. And any of the wisdom traditions that exist and continue to change and arise and surface are also propositional. In other words, we don't know for sure that these ideas are correct, but uh, there are ideas that have been taken up by groups of people because they tend to serve a function. There's this, they're getting something out of them. Meditation, of course, is an attempt to understand consciousness itself. So let me give you one proposition before we begin here from the Eastern traditions. And this is a key element, I think, in understanding the techniques of meditation. So the proposition here, the idea is that consciousness, the you could say a universal intelligence, an impersonal universal energy and intelligence, it's the understood to be the backdrop of the universe. Before there was form, there was consciousness. There was this potential for form to be created. This is the idea. And then, because of that potential, consciousness distills itself down in some way into time and space and into individual planets, suns, human beings, animals, anything you can imagine that has form and is located in time and space is a condensation of this universal power and intelligence. So that being the case, is it then possible to experience this backdrop of consciousness as us, in a sense? The other question, of course, is that most of us are concerned with to some degree, because we're conscious and we can project into the future, is what happens when we die? What happens when this experience, we could say today, of condensation, of location in time and space, what happens when that's over? Is there something to be worried about or concerned about? Again, we don't know. We don't know exactly, because if the only thing you're ever if the only thing you're ever conscious of is your own sentience, the lights need to be on in order for you to experience anything. Then upon the dissolution of the individual, there is no individual consciousness at all at that point. So 1 billion years could go by before you meaning consciousness in its latent form, manifests again as form. And when it does manifest again, then again, that being would then be conscious of its location in time and space and have memories and projections. So that the interval in between lives, you could say, I'm not a proponent or a believer in reincarnation, but let's just for now understand it this way, that gap between consciousness, individual consciousness, sentience, and the next instance of awareness, sentience, the interval between, there would be no sense of time. There would be no sense of location. There would be no identification as consciousness itself at all. So if that's true, then it's possible that the only thing we'll ever be aware of is being alive. So upon your dissolution, the next thing that will appear in the world is another sentient being. And that's what that being is going to be experiencing. So let's talk a little bit longer than normal, but let's try to experiment with this. So take a comfortable seat. You can close your eyes. In the mechanics of this practice, now we have to start to disambiguate and understand. So just take a moment with your eyes closed. We're not doing anything. We're not trying to do anything. We're not trying to change our perception. Just ask you just to note, just take a look at your physical state. Do you feel tired, agitated, bored, confused? Whatever it is, just take a moment and see if you can actually label that state. I'm just going to give you about 30 seconds here of silence. Now, the question I'll put to you is this state of sitting and doing nothing with hopefully no exterior pain. You're comfortable in your seat. You're not hungry. You're not in any form of physical pain. Is this state of doing nothing comfortable? Could you do it for a fairly long period of time, or is it painful to some degree? Is there suffering involved? And just be honest with this, I think, is the best for now. Is there agitation? Is there boredom? We can categorize these things as suffering. And the next question is, where is this suffering coming from? And the chances are the suffering is not coming from what's happening physically, because that isn't the root of suffering here for most people. The root of suffering is the mind, memories, projections, physical sensations of anxiety or disturbance. Bring your attention to your breath now and begin to breathe smoothly. And see if you can take all of your attentiveness that was distributed in narratives and memories, bring all of that to the sensation of your breath. And simply locate your breath in the body. And follow your breath here for 30 seconds. You notice now as you breathe, the breath is somewhat impersonal. When you take in a breath, when the air comes in to your body from the rest of the world, you don't think about the breath as being yours when it's outside of you. It could be anybody's, right? But as soon as it comes into you, we call it our breath. We possess it. And when we exhale, we call it our exhale until the moment it leaves our nose or mouth. And then the air around us is no longer ours. Notice how we do that reflexively. We label that. See if you can drop the label my breath and simply breathe 30 seconds. And now just take a moment. Feel the presence of the body, the weight of the body, any sensations of pressure, the movement of sound around you coming to the ears. And you can begin to open the eyes. All right, thank you, everyone. So, very simply, one of the things you can do when you're meditating is bring your full attention to something that's happening now, like the breath, like the sensations in the body. And these are not memories or projections or narratives. They're fundamentally concrete things that are happening in the moment. And usually, unless those things are creating some form of physical suffering, when attention is placed upon them, for as long as our capacity allows us to do that, and it's very limited, but as long as we're able to do that, we're actually living in that state of non-suffering. So that's something to think about for today, and I'll see you tomorrow, Hero. Same time, same place, wherever you are. Thanks again.